why are we here today? Why do we do what we do? And more importantly, why does it all matter? That's sort of at the crux of what I want to discuss today. So my personal why is very simple. It's a mission to create 100,000 millionaires of color by 2030. Now, why do I do that? I truly believe innately in the good in people, and I believe that if more people have, it trickles down into society and it'll create a better society. People will be happier, people can help, people can create, and that's what life is all about, right? Now, why do I do that? Back to that word again. So my background is pretty unique. I have a pretty unique perspective from that standpoint, which led to my why and why I do what I do. So until I was 16 years old, I lived in Denmark with my South African grandmother. Now, my grandmother is a political refugee from South Africa. Her husband, who died on the way to Denmark, fought alongside Nelson Mandela in the fight against apartheid in South Africa. On the other side of that duality, my father is a wealthy businessman, white guy. I didn't see him, I never lived with him, only until later. The way I grew up, the underlying paradigmatic message in everything that we did, and everything that she said and everything she taught me was that you're black, your ceiling is here, so get as close to it as you can. I never got toys, which is not a bad thing. She gave me books. From the time I was 5, I was reading and writing in English and Danish. The underlying message at all times was, be the best that you can be because life is not going to treat you fair. Now, that to me was the wrong language of the currency of success, if you will. When I moved with my father eventually when I was 12 years old, I realized my father didn't read books really. He was just good at making money. He bought properties and opened businesses. And at the root of everything he would teach me, not with his words, but also with action, is you can do anything you want to. It was as though that imposed glass ceiling did not exist. So he would say, if I used, for instance, in my grandmother's house, we never curse, no bad words. My father, not so much either, but the biggest curse word is the word can't. You're not allowed to say that because you can do whatever you set your mind to, which is a cliche we often hear. But every day, looking back, telling me later, every day it was instilling and embedding the belief that yes, you actually can, not all the reasons that you cannot. Later, as I began my own journey, a lot of the ghosts from my upbringing with my grandmother would haunt me. Of course, I would always be interested in books and learning and curiosity. Every day at home was almost like a lecture of some sort, history, and I loved it. But later, I realized that language of the currency of success, money, and what you can really achieve would hold me back in a lot of ways that is very, very important, very, very difficult rather, for people to truly understand unless you've been there yourself. And that later led me to what I would do is I would talk to people around me. I started eventually buying property myself, which I had seen my father do. I started doing it myself, and I started telling people in my immediate circle, yes, you can do this. Here's how you can buy a property with 3 apartments in it. You only have to put down 3.5%. You can live there, your tenants pay your mortgage, you can live rent-free, you can build wealth, all this other stuff. Then later, I built a business, acquired properties. Around 4 years ago, the Corona lockdown happened, as we know. And I never thought that, and this goes back to the background again. I never thought myself, or with my background, that I was really the person to talk about these things. Maybe it was a question of worthiness, maybe it was a question of not feeling that you should be the one to do that. But one of the things that I've always tried to highlight, everything that I do, and there's one thing that my grandmother taught me, is always be a blessing. Always be a blessing. Spread the light, spread the light, spread the light. No matter what you may think and no matter what she may have thought, being expelled from her country, coming to Europe, of course, things will sit there. I get it. But always be a blessing regardless. So I decided to start sharing this message on social media. This happened 4 years ago. And it created a whole movement. I realized it wasn't just myself that sat with those ghosts, if you will, those self-imposed restrictions, those inhibitions, those fears, those insecurities, those vulnerabilities that a lot of times we try to mask behind whatever front we can muster together. And I decided to be that person because I had the unique perspective of having lived in that one world where wealth is almost not taken for granted, but it's a given that you can do it. And the other one where it's almost embedded within you that it's not for you, that you're not worthy. So no matter what you tell a person that comes from that, you can do it, it's for everyone, you will automatically reject it because you've been taught that this is not for you. So I, looking back through what my father did with me, I go, wait a minute, I understand. I started creating content, I started creating educational content, it created a movement. 4 years later, you have 2.5 million people that are now, or at least consuming what we do, but more importantly, grasping the message of yes, it can really be done. Okay, and here's why this is so important, because this is not taught in school, and one of the main lessons that I really learned from living within the crux of that unique duality is that wealth truly is a function of the conversations around the dinner table. Now, what does that mean? Basically, what do you talk about for no reason? What are the things that consume you when you speak with your friends? If you speak about gossip, if you speak about nonsense, drama, what's on the television, your life tends to reflect that. If you're discussing ideas, building, investing in businesses together, creating businesses together, even if you fail, who cares? There's an experience, there's a lesson. Moving forward, everything's centered around the paradigm of yes, I can and yes, I will. Then that changes the entire game. Now, what a lot of people don't know is around 88% of millionaires are self-made. Roughly 90% come from real estate, just simply buying something and holding on to it for a long time. Another fact, if you start at 18, you can retire a millionaire by investing $100 a month. Not gonna go into detail about that, but the question is, and it comes back to that word again, why? Why do you want to have money? Is it to show off? You want nice cars, you want nice houses? That to me is the wrong currency language, if you will, of money, because it comes from a point of vanity and you will chase something for the wrong reasons. Instead, money to me means freedom, security, legacy. And that's why I do that. I want to share that with people that yes, it can be done, and yes, everybody to some degree have vulnerabilities or insecurities that they have to wrestle with. And even coming from where I came from, ironically within that duality, Denmark is a place where no one is poor, which is why I learned that if everybody has something, crime, being mean to other people, it doesn't really tend to happen. But still, within that, I lived in one of the few ghettos that exist there with other refugees that came from war zones and this and that. We happen to be political refugees. If this is where I grew up, I understand that. Then all of a sudden living in a totally different world, almost like Will Smith in the French Prince of Bel-Air. It's a complete and different paradigm shift. But then again, you also learn that human beings innately operate the same way. Doesn't matter what color you are, where you live, this and that. It simply just boils down to what is your why and why do you pursue it? So that's where I decided to make the mission of everything that it is that we do. And building that, it becomes an emotional thing for me. Building that is something that we built an entire thing around. So what I want to leave you guys with here today is, why does any of this matter to you? Do you want to build wealth so you can have a nice car? Do you want to build wealth because you want to show off and be in the right circles? Or do you want to build wealth because you want to have freedom for your children, have freedom to do what you want to do, when you want to do it? Leave something for the next generation. Build that multi-generational legacy. Do those things that really truly matter. And if we can do that, if more people just do that, there's no need to disrupt bigger systems. You see a lot of people trying to do that, and it really ends well. You don't have to take from anyone. There's enough for everybody. So even one family owning a few properties, you will naturally seek out other people to do the same thing. Before you know it, that viral effect that compound effect will kick in, and you build a community. And that's really what we want to do. That we want to lead with people, that we want to spread that it really can be done. As long as you tap into that one 3-letter word, which is what I said from the beginning, which may sound cliche, might sound boring, but what is your why? And why does it matter? Thank you very much.